Hello friends, welcome to the first episode of 2019 as it concerns building. We had of course our Wednesday episode. First, let me apologize because we discovered after we filmed this episode that the audio did not record. So this episode will be voiceover. I also want to thank you for helping us achieve our 2018 goal of reaching and exceeding 3,000 subscribers, and also for surpassing 1 million views for the channel this new year. I think the first day of the year we surpassed 1 million. I also want to let you know how much we appreciate everything you do for us and our channel. And I want to invite you to go through our over 300 videos, as I'm confident you're going to find something useful to watch and learn from. If today is your first time at our channel, I want to extend you a very warm welcome. If you have been here before but you have not subscribed, please subscribe. If today is your birthday, happy birthday to you. Today we're going to build a rather industrial looking crate that it is very modern and can be complementing any decor. It's a fairly straightforward build, and we invite you to stick around and see exactly how we're going to build it. Here we start by measuring a board that we got at the store and finding its middle. So we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to join it so it will be a wider board, which has been a very important part of this build. I'm not sure what happened there, why the camera stopped recording, but it did. And here we go again. We're marking our board. And for this specific project, it was important to find the middle of the board, even though you can always adjust and make final cuts as we did on this project as well as the project progresses. We're making you see Mrs. Wizard here making a line that will help me align the piece and cut it in the middle. This is a very straightforward cut, and I could have used my sled, but I decided to just not even bother with the sled, and it ended up being a very good cut regardless of not using the sled. However, I do recommend using a sled if you have one. As you can see here, the blade goes right down the middle of the line, which shows you that you don't need to have very sophisticated equipment to achieve decent cuts and good results with your projects. This is a little boat, so later on we're going to pass it through our planer to make sure that it makes for a good base for our project. And now we're going to move on into gluing it and having a very nice steady base. Again, you see me here making sure that the edges are perfect. And notice, as you know if you've seen my channel before, it is not about measuring, is about watching what you're doing and sometimes doing it on the fly, as you see on this specific example. But we end up with really good results. That goes to tell you that you don't really need precision instruments to measure. Here I'm using my joiner to make sure that the two pieces will be joined correctly, and you're going to see later in the video that the results were actually quite amazing. The two pieces join, and the join is very hard if possible to see at all. So having a joiner really helped us in this specific project, and we plan to put it in very good use in a future project that I think you're going to enjoy. Here I'm making just a very first test to see if I need to use the joiner anymore, and it does look good to me. It passes the approval of Mrs. Wizard as well. So we're going to move on the next stage, which is actually the joining. And here, because this will not require a lot of strength, we'll simply use glue to join the two pieces, and we're going to clamp them together. You see that we're using wax paper, so the jointed surfaces will not actually also glue themselves to the piece of wood that we have underneath to provide us a very flat surface. When you're doing joinery, a flat surface is very important. So we put a very straight piece of plywood to allow us to have a really good result in our joining. The piece is small, so only 2 clamps were required, and the best place to clamp a piece of this size are the 2 edges, and that's what you're going to see we are going to do here. We're going to put a clamp on each edge, and we start with the first. And the best technique here is once you have it clamped, you don't need to put tremendous amount of pressure. Just do the second clamp, and then you can clamp them together and increase the pressure, making sure you're not going to let the 2 pieces bow. Here I was telling Mrs. Wizard that it needs to go at the edge of the piece and complete the clamping process. We let this dry about 30 minutes before we did any more processing to it, and 30 minutes was plenty of time. I wasn't sure because today was cold in the garage, but it proven to be plenty of time to make a very good, very strong joint, and for us to be able to process it and make it as good to close to perfect as possible. So here we're going to clean our sled. It is important that your sled has no debris, because sometimes it can collect, especially in the corners, and I have gotten into the habit of always cleaning it, so I will get very nice 90-degree angles when I do my cutting. And we start cutting the pieces for the piece. I believe these are our long pieces, and we have 2 different sizes for this build. We're going to use 6 long and 6 short pieces, and as you can see there, I only use a simple little mark, and I align it with my blade based on if I want to be proud or shy or right on the blade cut. And once I align it, I'll go ahead and make the cut. And you could see here that even though the camera sometimes can be deceiving and it looks like I'm off my mark, once the cut is made, you're going to see that actually this was a very good cut and exactly on the mark. Keep in mind when you watch any channel that the angle of filming sometimes can make things look a little different than they are. As you saw there, it went exactly through the mark, which is exactly where I wanted this cut to go through. Also be safe when you remove any cut off pieces, and as you notice, the blade has stopped. Safety is a very important consideration when you do anything in the shop, and we take it very seriously, and we are proud to say that we have not had any serious injuries, not only during our production but during our normal builds that we don't necessarily put in the channel. This is our normal method. Again, I try to avoid measuring when I can. So what I do, I butt 2 pieces together, and then I make my cut. And here you see the 6 long pieces all cut together and ready for assembly. And that allows you to make sure that all the pieces are the right length, and in our cases they were, without having to really cut and measure anything, or cut twice or measure twice or do any of that business. Now we're cutting the iron that we're going to use, and I'm using a hacksaw to cut this. I could have used my Dremel tool, but sometimes it is fun to use your manual tools, and in this instance I did truly enjoy using the hacksaw to make the cuts required for the 4 corners that we use to complete our piece and give it the industrial look that we were going for. You can see now we have our 4 pieces there, and we are ready to proceed with our build. The next step is to make sure that the metal cut pieces do not have any sharp edges, so they will not injure anyone. And I use a hard rock on my Dremel tool to take away any sharp edges or any remnants of steel from the cutting process, and that gives you a very safe surface. It makes it very easy and safe to hold without catching yourself. Of course it has edges and corners, so it is still something you have to be careful when you handle, but other than that, I think it was a very good outcome. And I had to do that, of course, in every piece, as it is important that on something that you have in your house, you do not have anything that will potentially injure you or cut your fingers or those of your visitors, your animals, your children, etc. The Dremel tool is a fantastic tool for this specific project and gives fast results that are extremely professional. And also what I was saying there is make sure you wear glasses when you do that, because little shards of metal can really fly your way, and that can be really dangerous and injure your eyes. So safety is very important in the shop, and even though it's not always visible in our videos, we take safety very, very seriously. We're about done, and now you see the connected piece. And I decided, since this is going to be a finished piece in the house, to pass it through my planer. And you're going to see that when it went through the planer, we got some amazing results. So I decided to pass it first on the top side, which is the good side, the one that will be most visible when you look inside the crate. But I also, as you will see, will pass a couple of times on the back side. And here you see it coming, and you can see it is very hard to see where the join actually happened, and that's where a joiner really shines, when you want to join boards without any indication of when the join happened. And you can see it again. This is the back of the piece, and I passed it a couple of times because it was a little rough, and even though it was not going to be visible, I wanted it to be good looking when you lift it and not to scratch any surface that we might set it upon. At this stage, we are all of us, Miss Wizard is looking at the piece, and she agrees that it is of the quality we want it to be. So we are going ready to get into the next step of the build process. But you can see there what a good join we got out of that piece, just using glue and a little bit of pressure from clamps, and that's really all you need. Joining two boards doesn't have to be very complicated or very difficult. You also see that I like pieces of wood that have some character. I enjoy natural edges, and here you see the first stage when we attach the four sides to the bottom, and we do that using glue and brad nails. My brad nailer is a tool I have used virtually in every project I've built since I got the tool. And I must say, it is a tool I totally enjoy having, and I really enjoy using it. And since I purchased it, I have not really turned my pneumatic tools on even one time. Again, you don't need a lot of strength here, but we have used glue, and the nailer is really operating as a clamp until the glue dries. So the end result will be a very strong product. Here we attached one corner, and as you can see, we give some accent with some carriage bolts to make it look even more industrial. And it is easier to start with the bottom piece and then put the middle piece and then the top piece. And we're showing you some detail there. It is important here that you have a square to make sure that the metal bracket is at 90 degrees with the bottom of the crate there, because if it is not, it's going to be visible and it's going to really ruin the project. We are going to fill the hole with hot glue and then put the carriage bolt in that hole. And once the hot glue dries, it's going to provide strength, and it will be virtually impossible for this carriage bolt to exit. What you see me doing there, I had to turn the carriage bolt because, as you know, they have sides, and I had to turn it a little bit so I can pound it all the way in. I like it to be flush, and as you can see, that's all it took to make that happen. I had to go after the project finished and make all the carriage bolts flat. I wanted first to make it stable, so you will see during the build that some of the bolts are not flush. Here is the finished project. We're very happy with the way it turned out, and I hope you like it as well. I will leave it unfinished, but you can most certainly finish it, paint it, or stain it. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did enjoy this episode, we appreciate the thumbs up. If you didn't, the other button works as well. Share, like, subscribe, and tell us what you'd like to see in this channel. From the Garage Wizard, Mrs. Wizard, and Elpida, we bid you a great week.